Okay, so access control is a method by which you can control how a particular channel access access it. Okay, so I'll show you that there are in access control there are two types of link on which you perform any kind of communication. The communication first link is your point to point link and the second link is your broadcast. Okay, so you may have already known that in data link layer, what we try to establish a communication when this there are some stations that are uh, put on a wire here. When this particular APC wants to communicate with this particular PVC, so actually it broadcasts the message to all of the stations. Okay, so on the way all of the stations can see the data, so I have explained you about the technicality that how actually this particular problem is handled so that there is a security, every station will not be able to see the content of the message. Okay, so that thing we have discussed in framing, so don't worry about that part right now. So now we are discussing here that when there is a point to point link between A and B. Okay, so there is a point to point link between A and B, and if the link if it is duplex in nature, it is simplex in nature, but it is a point to point link. Okay, so there is no one in between. Okay, so if this is the scenario, there is no problem, there is no need of access control, or there is nothing like that. Okay, so if you see the point to point link here, point to point link is a dedicated link that exists between the stations. The entire capacity of the link is used as a transmission between two connected stations. Okay, so there is in point to point link you are only connected two stations, so there is no problem in that. Okay, so there is no such problem exist, but if there are more, if there are more stations in a link, in a particular link, then your problem may get arise. Okay, so suppose I say this is my A station, this is my E station. Okay, so when I try to transmit the message at the same time, around same time this particular station also sends the message. Okay, so now when these two particular message are going on, so there can be a collision between these messages. Okay, so because we are using only single wire or only using a single link, and at the same time in the link two particular stations are sending a message, so the collision, we cannot avoid this particular thing that there may be collision. Okay, so that is why we need access control. Now access control means that if there are more stations that are accessing the wire, access control means if there are more stations like five stations that are accessing the wire, I have to avoid the collision. So this particular thing is made sure by extra access control mechanism. Okay, so in this access control there are many techniques here. So access control is a mechanism that controls the access of station to the transmission link. Okay, so it controls in such a way that the link or that the collision can be avoided. Okay, suppose if A is sending something, another station should not send anything at the same time when A is sending. Okay, so there are ways to ensure that, but again I'll tell you how. Okay, so access control is a mechanism that controls the access of the station to the transmission link. Broadcast link require access control. This is because the link is shared among several stations. Okay, so if the peer-to-peer link, point-to-point link, there is no problem in that. But if there is, but the if it is shared across many links, there may be problem. Okay, so now why we need access control, we need to prevent the collisions. So that is the sole purpose of access control. Okay, so prevent the occurrence of the collision, or if a collision occurs, how to deal with it. Okay, so access controls two things. First thing is prevent collision, and second thing is if collision has occurred. Okay, so if collision has occurred, how I have to deal with that collision. Okay, so deal with the collision also. Okay, so first is tries to prevent the collision, but eventually if collision happens, it also tries to deal with it, that how can I retransmit the packet or such that collision may not occur. Okay, so now Consider a station where multiple station places their data set onto the link and start transmitting simultaneously. Such a station give rise to a collision among the data packets. Collision of the data packets called data to corrupt. Okay, so it is saying that this is the scenario where your collision will occur. So at the same time, every station is sending some data or every station is broadcasting on the network. So your data may got corrupted by getting collision with each other. Okay, so that is the need of your access controls. This is the example shown here, that from the A station it is transmitting at the same time, at the B station it is transmitting at the same time, and then there will be definitely there will be a collision at some time here. Okay, so two station are transmitting the packet simultaneously, the data give rise to a collision between the packet transmitted by them. Thus, to prevent the collision, deal with it, access control is needed. Okay, so now how can we control? There are five access control method. First is one of the simplest one. It is time division multiplexing. I'll show you also. Another one is polling, that because there are some disadvantages of time division multiplexing. So that is why this particular method is invented. Okay. So still there are some disadvantage of this method. So this method is invented, and still this has some disadvantages. So this method is used, and then this method. Okay. So again, every method will be a little bit of different from the previous one, and it tries to solve the problem that the previous one has faced. Okay. So now I'll move on to TDM, that is your time division multiplexing. Okay, so TDM. So as TDM means, it's the time division multiplexing. So actually what happens in that you divide that the link is divided into time. Okay, so suppose this is your link. In this link there are suppose there are 4 or 5 stations. Okay, I'm thinking there are 4 stations. Okay, so they divide the time. So they divide the time such that every station will have access to the link for that much amount of time. Okay, so suppose like round robin, I think you have heard about round robin. So I'll make it clear. If I draw the diagram over here, I think diagram is also drawn here. So suppose there are four stations here, 4 or 5 stations. You can take any station. In this particular station, now what happens is that you want to do time division multiplexing. Okay, so everything is in the name. Okay, so now what is time division multiplex? That I want to divide the time in such a way that every particular station have access to this wire for particular amount of time. So I have divided the time between these station such that when one station is accessing the link, no other is accessing it. So that is the simplest approach. Okay, so I can do, this is your slot. Suppose this is a slot. For this much amount of time I have dedicated this particular slot to one station one, and then this much amount of time is dedicated to 2, 3, and then 4. Okay, so when the time is divided, suppose the fourth station is doing something in the similar time, no other can transmit or put the packet onto the link. So no, if 4 is the, if suppose I have divided at the time such that at 10 o'clock, this will at 10 a.m. this 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. This particular station can access it from 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. So from 12 a.m. to 1 a.m. and from 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. Okay, so 1 hour limit I have given to all of the station. So if the fourth station it has 1 hour to work on it, in that at 1 a.m. to 2 a.m. it can transmit any packet to any other station. At the same time, no other station will try to access this link. Okay, so that is the advantage of time division multiplexing. So if you're seeing, everybody is getting their turn, and it is in the round robin form fashion. Okay, so if you heard about round robin, because you already have studied the scheduled algorithm in OS, so that is the same thing. Okay, so again I will try to use it 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that is the simplest approach that you can use here. I'll also show you in the PPT. Yeah, this one. Okay, so it is saying that O A B C D, when D arrived, again A B C D A B C D A B C D. You can go on like that. Okay, so now main purpose is that how much time this will be. Okay, so you have to calculate the how much this time will be that I dedicate. I have given an example. You can take 1 hour, but this particular time is not assigned is not assigned randomly. Okay, so in worst case, uh, okay, so just let me take an example. Okay, so actually how much this amount of time will be. So if I have to calculate it, I'll tell you. So suppose in worst case, when you want to transmit the packet from this particular station to suppose this particular station, so this is 4. Okay, so in the worst case, the station that can be present, so this particular this how much time does this particular station require? Suppose this is the turn of 1 is there. Okay, so there is a this I'm talking about this instance. At that time, one workstation has 1 hour to transmit. Suppose it is 1 hour, but I'm trying to find the time here, what actually be the time here. Okay, so in worst case, what will be the time? The time taken by this one station to put the packet onto the link, that will be my TT, and the time taken for it to get to the time taken for the last bit of the packet to reach to the destination station. Okay, so that much, at least that much amount of time is required by the station one, such that it should transmit or it would transmit the packet as well as it just the packet reaches to the end of the station. So that at least that much amount of time I have to have. Okay, so now I can say that this much amount of time. So I can say the slot time that is given to one should at least be TT plus TP. Okay, so I'm talking in the worst case, and I'm assuming, so there is an assumption, there is a assumption there that that every every station, every TT or every packet is same. Okay, so every packet is unit packet. Every packet length or a packet is same. Packet is same mean if the packet is of 100 byte, in every station it is 100 bytes. So I'm this assumption I'm assuming. Okay, so it may be more than that if TT is taken more for a particular amount of packet, saying that at least that much amount of time is required. Okay, so again it's an assumption that every packet of every station takes the same amount of time to transmit it. Okay, so that is one assumption that I'm taking here, keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm saying at one time only one station can access the link, and for how much amount of time this particular station can access the link, it will be TT plus TP. Okay, so one will get its term for at least TT plus TP amount of time. Two will get its term for at least TP plus TT amount of time. So it is somewhat logical that the amount of time that is taken by any station to put the packet onto the link and that packet reach safely to the destination. So that much amount of time. So that is logical. That makes sense also. So this much amount of time I should be needed for a particular station. During this time, any other station should not be able to transmit or should not be able to access the link. Okay, so that is the thing that I need. Okay, so if I try to find the efficiency of it, what will be the efficiency here? Efficiency, you already know that it will be useful time over the total time. Okay, so it will be useful time over the total time. Here if you're seeing the useful time, how much useful time is here, the TT time is useful time because you are doing some work and you are waiting for TP time, such that because there is no acknowledgement in DLL, so you are just sending the packet and just waiting for TP amount of time. So that much amount of time. So I'll say my useful amount of time that a station 1 is doing work is only for TT because it is putting the packet onto the link, and for TP time because you cannot say that workstation 1 is doing some work. For TP amount of time it should sit idle. Okay, so that is why I'm not including TP in the useful amount of time. Now the total time will be this the total time that is required by this station will be TT plus TP. Okay, so now if I try to find out, it will be divide numerator and denominator by TT. It will be 1 over 1 plus TP by TT. You can set it like T1 over 1 plus A, where A is equal to TP over TT. Okay. Okay, so your efficiency, you can see your efficiency is around, if I just take an example, my TT is 1 millisecond and my TP is suppose 1 millisecond also. Okay, so what is the efficiency in this case when I'm using TDM? Okay, so efficiency in case of TDM will be 1 over 1 plus A. 1 over 1 plus A is TP by TT, that is 1 by 1. Okay, so 1 over 1 plus 1, that is 1 over 2, that is 50% efficiency. Okay, so it means that for if this is the station workstation A and this is the workstation D or D, and for 50% of the time, 50% of the time, 50% it is utilization, or it is 50% efficient, like because it takes 1 millisecond to put the packet onto the link, and for 1 millisecond it is sitting idle. Okay, so for 1 millisecond to put so that the final bit of this particular packet reaches to the D, this much amount of time it is sitting idle. Okay, so this is the, that is why it's 50% efficiency. Okay, so still if you want to find the, what do you say, the effective bandwidth or throughput, the formula is again definitely same. Okay, so to find effective bandwidth, I have to, or effective bandwidth or throughput, I have to tell you the bandwidth. Okay, so suppose the channel bandwidth is something like 2 Mbps. Okay, so when it is 2 Mbps, you already know what is throughput. Throughput is efficiency into bandwidth. Okay, so it means that the efficiency will be 1 by 2. What is bandwidth? Mbps, 2 Mbps, so it will become 1 Mbps. Okay, so it is saying that out of 2 Mbps you are only utilize 1 MB per second, and for the rest of the time you are sitting idle. Okay, so this is how your efficiency or effective bandwidth is gained. Okay, keep in mind, I also show you the PPT also. Okay, so the size of the time slot is given as TT plus TP. So I already told you. If you have any doubt, just let me know. So again, it is under the assumption that every packet takes the same amount of time for putting TT, for putting the packet onto the link. Okay, so that is the assumption here. So it may be more than that, but I am just considering the standard thing. Okay, so now to again the assumption is given here to keep the size of time slot constant. So always it will be TT plus TP for all the slots. Okay, so we have assumed that the station want to send packets of same size. Okay, so that is the assumption here. So I already told you that the assumption for this one is that every particular packet is taking the same amount of time for transmission. Okay, so if it is taking the same amount of time, means the length of every packet is similar. Okay, so that is one assumption here. So that is why this consider this particular point. Okay, so most of the time people think that this, they overlook this assumption. That is why I put this particular assumption in PPT. Okay, so if they overlook this assumption, so they cannot they will not conclude that this is the assumption. So some packets can take more time, some packet can take less time also. So it can be less than that, it can be more than that. So that is why I'm said if you take this assumption, this formula is valid. Okay, so this kept TT constant for all the stations. We have considered the worst case when both the stations are present at two extreme ends. Okay, so that is why I've taken the example of that is where one packet is sending something to the other packet. Okay, so why it is calling it the worst case, because suppose this is B, this is C, and this is D. Okay, so why it is only considering when you are sending the packet from this particular side to this particular side, the TP will be maximum. Okay, so TP means that the last bit of the packet reach towards the destination station, that will be maximum amount of time, because the distance here will be larger as compared to the distance between C as compared to the distance between B. Okay, so again, because it is the worst case, so whatever is the worst case timing, that is why we have taken TT plus TP here. TP is the worst case here, the worst case TP is taken here. Okay, So keep it in mind. Okay, this ensure that TP will be maximum and all the station will get sufficient amount of time to propagate their data. Okay. Now efficiency, I've already shown you efficiency is given something like this. And now the disadvantages. Okay, so now the disadvantage is that suppose when you are transmitting any kind of a data, so you already know that the slot will be divided. Okay, so every slot will be of TT plus TP amount of time. This is the slot timing. Okay, so suppose this is 1, 2, 3 and 4. So again 1, 2, 3 and 4 station will get their time slot to transmit any packet. Okay, so the main disadvantage is that suppose at some time when the access is given to this two workstation, now this particular workstation does not have anything to transmit. Okay, so it means this TT plus TP amount of time is wasted. Okay, so this particular amount of time is wasted and the channel is not utilized for this much amount of time. It can also happen when the access control access goes towards the station 3, it again does not have anything to transmit. Okay, so again, suppose one has something to transmit, but one will get its turn after 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so if they're not transmitting anything, still one has to wait for 3 into TT plus TP amount of time to get its turn. Okay, so that is the main advantage, that there is high wastage in this particular approach. If any station does not want to does not have the data to send during its time slot, then its time slot goes waste. Okay, so this is very important point. This reduces the efficiency, so the efficiency will further be reduced, and the slime's time slot could have allotted to some other station that is willing to send the data. Okay, so at this particular amount of time, this slot can be uh, should have been allotted to this one because it already want to send the data, but actually it will get its turn after 3 into 3 into TP plus TT time. Okay, so that is the main disadvantage of using time division multiplexing approach. Okay, so for this particular thing, we have founded a new solution, that is polling. Okay, so now polling is the solution, that is also a next another access control method that is added to TDM. Okay, so you already know that what is the problem is that if some other packet wants to send the data and other packets are just sitting idle, so suppose A station wants to send the data again, but it has to wait for its term after B, C, and D. Then it will get its terms. But B, C, D, and B, C, and D stations are sitting idle because they do not have anything to transmit. Okay, so now what does this polling do? Okay, so polling actually, it again everything is in the name. Okay, so now the reservation system is got finished here. So reservation is finished here. Now any no slot will be reserved for any station. Okay, so they have to select this particular algorithm select the station which want to transmit the data. Okay, so it will directly select the station. Suppose it will select the station A that want to transmit the data. Okay, so that want to transmit the data. Okay, you can directly select it. Okay, so that is the advantage of this. But for this to select a particular data, I have to require some time. So this particular time will be called as T poll. Okay, so T poll means that this much amount of time I require for polling. Polling means ask it will ask every station that who wants to send the data. So it is taking a poll from every station that who wants to send the data. And if station A say I want to send the data, so it will assign a particular time slot to station A that it should send the data. Okay, so in this access control method, a polling is conducted in which all the stations that are willing to send the data will participate. The polling algorithm chooses, so I will not go in detail of this polling algorithm because it's it does not have anything useful. So if you want to study it, you can, but I don't think it is very useful here. So you can avoid this polling algorithm because it's a simple algorithm and it is not required for our syllabus as well. Okay, so this particular polling algorithm is asked not asked in any gate question or in any CCNA or CCNP question. Okay, so still if you want to study it, you can search for this, you can find this algorithm. It's simple, it's very simple approach that it takes a poll from every station and assign a priority based on the polling. Okay, so you will, if you look at it, you will understand it. Okay, so the polling algorithm chooses one of the stations to send the data. So by this algorithm it will send out that which particular station to choose. Okay, the chosen station or the chosen station sends the data to the destination. After the station has sent the data, the cycle again repeat. Again it will take a poll from all the stations that want to send the data, and it will again repeat the whole process. Okay, so in this particular amount of time, now see, if I take it, now it will be another time slot of this particular time slot that will be assigned. Suppose this is the stations. Suppose now after the polling algorithm, the it find out that A want to send the data. Okay, so a particular time slot will be assigned to this one, but actual time will get increased here. Okay, so T poll will also be included, the amount of time it took for poll, and then there will be TP, and then there will be TT. For this particular slot, the time now has increased. In the similar way, if any other want to send the data, it will take another poll, and then again you have to TP plus TT as required. Okay, so if you find out the efficiency, what will be the efficiency here will be, the efficiency will be the useful work is only TT. So I'm only the station is only doing useful work in the form of TT. It is putting the packet onto the link, and the total amount of time will be your T poll, the time required for polling, the time transmission time, and your propagation delay. Okay, so that is your what you say efficiency of TDM with polling. Okay, so keep in mind. Okay, so I think in the next slide it's already given. Okay, so this is the example here, T poll, T send. Okay, so send is actually, you mean T send is actually TT plus TP here. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, so T send, I think this is not given here, but T send is actually TT plus TP. So that is how I find it out the efficiency here. If you take a look at the efficiency, it is useful time, that is TT by TT, and that is total time. So the time required in polling plus the transmission time and the propagation delay. Okay, so now the advantages, you have certain advantages, that certain disadvantages. So advantages you already know, unlike in time division multiplexes, no slot is ever wasted. So that is one concern. It leads to maximum efficiency. Right now it will lead to maximum efficiency, but it has more disadvantages than advantages. First is time is wasted during polling. Okay, so what, because we have to run the polling algorithm, so there will be a certain amount of time that will be taken to find out that which particular packet, which particular station want to transmit. Okay, link sharing is not fair. Okay, so suppose if A wants to send the data, and again A wants to send the data, and again A wants to send the data, and B also wants to send the data, but A actually wants to send 100 bytes, and right now at the third cycle B only wants to send 90 bytes. Okay, so preference will be given to this particular station. So that is why I'm saying that link sharing is not fair. Okay, since each station has the equal probability of winning in each round. So most of the time in this, you're seeing here that A can go if sorry, so I've taken a wrong example, because this is not based on the priority is not based on the amount of this that you're sending here. It is based on equal chance. Okay, so suppose if I'll show you that what is the disadvantage of every time if I'm using a equal chance here. Okay, so suppose in equal chance both of them have equal chance to transmit, but this particular time this is one. Again the next time also, if they have a equal chance, suppose this one, in the next time also they have equal chance, suppose this one. Okay, so if you are using a equal chance probability, so it may happen, it is something like that, you have tossed the coin, and every three times you have tossed the coin, and three times you got head. Okay, so this can happen. So that is why it's saying that link sharing is not fair. Okay, so a few station might starve. Starve means it will never get a packet if the state number of stations are very like 100 200 stations in a LAN. So some of the station might never get a chance to transmit anything. So that is the main disadvantage. Okay, so for that we find it out another approach, that is CSMACD. Okay, so that is your main algorithm here. So it is one of the most popular algorithm here. So okay, I'll show you. Okay. So CSMACD full form is Carrier Sensing Multiple Access. Now slash CD means collision detection. Okay. So now everything I want in this particular algorithm, it is automatic. Okay. So CSMACD is mostly used in Ethernet. Okay. So when they say CSMACD or Ethernet, so they are always this particular access control method is used in Ethernet. So it is so popular that sometimes people use Ethernet instead of CSMACD. Okay, so keep in mind CSMACD is employed in Ethernet protocol. I'll tell you Ethernet also, but it is used in Ethernet mostly. Mostly means every time you will use this particular access control method in Ethernet. Keep that in mind. Okay, so now what is the meaning here? Carrier sensing. Okay, so suppose this is your station. So carrier means your link. So every station is continuously sensing the link. Multiple access means there are 4 stations. Everybody can access the station at any amount of time. Okay. Collision detection. Now this is the main feature. Now it is saying that if carrier sensing multiple access. Now it is saying that you have multiple stations, and every station can sense the carrier. Carrier means can sense the link, and based on the link, sensing means here carrier sense means that suppose A is sensing this wire. Okay, so it is sensing this wire that so that sees that there is no other signals onto the wire. Okay, so by sensing it, it can easily transmit or it can easily put the packet onto the link. Okay, but actually the sensing is very limited here. Okay, so carrier sense means it can only sense this much amount of area rather than the whole wire. Okay, so if this A can access the whole wire, then it definitely knows that this particular wire or any other station is sending or transmitting any other packet. But unfortunately it can only sense this much amount of area. This particular station can only sense this much amount of area. This particular station can only sense this much about of night. Okay, so that is some disadvantage here. So that is why they have given slash collision detection. Now it can happen that you have sensed the carrier at 11 a.m. and you find that there is no packet onto the link. Now you want to put your packet onto the link. When you put the packet onto the link, suppose B have transmitted the packet at this. Okay, so at this particular amount of time there will be a collision between both of the packets. Okay, so now for this collision, we also this particular access control method also employs collision detection, because when there are multiple stations that are sensing the wire, it may be possible that there will be a collision. So again there is a collision detection algorithm. So if there is a collision, we came to know about that there is a collision, so we can retransmit the packet, because you already know in LAN there is no acknowledgement. Keep that in mind, because LAN is considered as one of the most reliable source of communication. When you communicate in LAN, it's very it is very rare that your packet will got lost or your packet will get into collision with any other packet. So that is why we do not use acknowledgement. Okay, so now that is very much important right now, that we have some means to detect that there is a collision, because we actually do not have any acknowledgement. So how can we know that there is a collision? Okay, so I tell you how can you know that there is a collision there. Okay, now the first step is sensing the carrier. Okay, so any station willing to transmit the data senses this carrier. Okay, suppose A wants to send the data, and this A will sense the carrier this much area onto the wire. Okay, so if it find the carrier free, it will send, it will start transmitting the packet. So it will start placing its packet onto the link. Otherwise, if there is if this particular link is present here, suppose from B station, your when you sense the carrier, when you sense the carrier, there is some signals going on from there. Okay, so at the suppose at 11:01 you checked the station, and at that same particular amount of time one signal is going on from here. Okay, so if it is going on from here, it will not put the packet onto the link, because if it put the packet onto the link, there might be a there the collision chances are very very high. So it will refrain it from sending for some amount of time. After some time it will again sense the carrier if it is free or not. Okay, so as simple as that. Okay, so now how it does this: each station can sense the carrier only at its point of contact. So already I have told you that at this particular contact, at this particular point, it can only sense the carrier for this much amount of area. It cannot sense the carrier or sense the whole link. So that is the main disadvantage. Okay, it is not possible for any station to sense the entire carrier here. Carrier means link, the whole link or whole wire. Okay, so thus there is a huge possibility that a station might sense a carrier free when even when it is actually not. So what is the meaning of this? Suppose now this particular suppose this is station A and this is station B, and B is sending the message, and at 11 a.m. Okay, so till 11 a.m. the B is sending the packet. At 11 a.m. This particular station sends this point of contact. It find that because the signal is not reached there yet, it find that at that amount of time it is free. So when it starts to transmit the packet onto the link, and then at 11:01 suppose it put the packet onto the link at 11:01, this particular packet reaches here at A. Okay, so there will definitely be a collision here. Okay, so that is, there is a huge possibility actually. Now if you're seeing here that a station might sense the carrier, now at 11 this A has sensed the carrier, it find that the carrier is free, but actually the carrier is not free because B is transmitting onto this carrier. Okay, so that is the main disadvantage, because it can only sense a particular point to which it is connected to. It cannot detect the whole wire. It cannot look into the whole wire to see that any signal by or any bit is going on or not. Okay. Okay, so this is the example here. So it can only detect here. So at the current instance, if station A senses the carrier at its point of contact, then it will find it carrier free here. So it will definitely find it free, but actually it is not free because it is transmitting the packet. Okay, but the carrier is actually not free because station D is already transmitting the data. If station A is starts transmission the data now, then it might lead to a collision with the data transmitted by the station B. Okay, so after some time there are very high chances of collision when, because it find the carrier free, so it will put the packet onto the link and it will start sending, or it will start to send the packet to the destination. Okay, so now and the second step is detecting the collision. Okay, so now this is one of the most important thing. Okay, so how can you detect the collision if there is one? Okay, so in CSMA CD it is the responsibility of the transmitting station. Suppose I have sent a packet, suppose I am A and this is B, and I have sent some packet, and this also have sent some packet, and there is a collision. Suppose there is a collision here. Okay, so it is the responsibility of this particular station to see that there is a collision. Okay, so to see that there is a collision, this is the responsibility of A, and this is the responsibility of B to know that a collision has occurred. Why is it is the responsibility of these two stations? Because we have no acknowledgement in data link layer. Okay, so if it is acknowledgement, after a timeout I get to know that there is a collision because acknowledgement had not received. Okay, but acknowledgement is not a part of data link layer, so that is why I have to that the responsibility becomes of the transmitting station. Okay, so it is a responsibility of the transmitting station to know that my packet that I have sent, in this packet there is some kind of a collision. Okay, so for detecting the collision, CSMA CD implements the following condition. For this condition, you can easily detect that there is a collision. Okay, so the condition is that the transmission delay TP should be greater than equal to, okay, so I think there is a problem here. That is transmission, yeah, transmission delay. Sorry, it is transmission delay. I thought something else. So TT, it is TT. Okay. So transmission delay should be greater than equal to 2 into propagation delay, that is 2 into TP. So by this condition, you may be easily able to detect that there is any kind of a collision here. Okay. So now you will be thinking that how this particular equation is relevant. Okay, so now I'll show you. I'll take simple example to show you. I'll take times also, but I'm telling you that what is the simple, what do you say, what is the simple method behind here. Okay, so suppose this is station A and this is station D here. Okay, so now suppose this station is sending some data here, at the same time both are sending some data. So this is the packet. Okay, and this is the packet here. Okay, so at certain amount of time there will be, absolutely there will be collision, you already know. I want to know that there again the collision signal will be different. Keep in mind the collision signal will be different from the packet that you are sending. Okay, so it will maybe higher in amplitude. Suppose the packet goes like this, when it collided the collision signal will be something like this. Okay, so it will increase the frequency. Okay, so that is how you detect there is a collision here. But actually how can I detect there is a collision? So suppose understand the concept behind this condition. It is saying that you got the collision signal back, you got the collision signal back when you are still transmitting the packet. Okay, so what exactly is the meaning of this condition here is you got the collision signal back when you are still transmitting the packet. So I'll show you with the example, you might understand better. Okay, so this is very important point here. Okay, so I'm taking the worst case here, so that is also, you can refer to any book for the CSMACD, they have also taken the worst case there. So I'm taking the worst case here as well. So that is how in all the formulas that we have find it, there will be always the worst case. Okay. So now the worst case here will be the average case we have seen. So I'll show you the average case. Just wait a second. The average case I have always shown you. Okay. The average case here is that this is packet A, this is station A, this is station B, and you both of the station at 11 a.m. Okay, so both of them sense the carrier and they are empty because they are empty. Okay, there is nothing going on here. So at the same time you send the packet. Okay, so at 11 a.m. both 11 a.m. both send the packet at the same time. Okay, so see this point. Okay, so this is your average case. Okay, so now what will happen here, what exactly will happen here, suppose I'm taking that your TP is 1 hour, TP is 1 hour here, assume, just assume so that you will easily understand. Okay, so now when this particular collision will occur, now you reach at the half 30 minutes is required to reach here, 30 minutes will be required. So they are both transmitted at the same time. So 30 minutes when you are transmitting the packet after the propagation, uh, you got 30 minutes, after 30 minutes you got a collision. Okay, so there is a collision at 11:30 a.m. Suppose there is a collision. Okay, so collision happens. If I write it, it will be more clear. Collision happens. Okay, so because both of them started to transmit at the same time at 11, so I write it like this, the timeline. A and B starts transmitting. Okay, now Now what happened? Now when at 11:30 a.m. collision happens, now at what time actually they will see the collision signal? Okay, so now the collision signal will goes back towards the station, and the same way collision signal goes back towards the station. Okay, so and now the time required for this will be again 30 minutes, because the total TP from A to B is 1 hour. So because they have started transmitted at the same time, so there will be a collision after 30 minutes. And the collision signal, so such that A will see the collision signal after 30 minutes. Okay, so because if 30 minutes is required to reach your signal here, again 30 minutes will be required to get the collision signal back towards the station A. Okay, so I'll say at 12 A and B will start to see the collision signal. Okay, so A and B both will see the collision signal. Okay, so this is your average case. This is your average case that this happens. Now I am taking the worst case here. So actually now in average case, what I want is that how do this particular station knows, how this particular station knows that my particular packet have collided with another packet. Okay, so at the time if at the time this particular station receives a collision signal and still it is transmitting. Okay, so I'll show you. So I'll write it, it will be more clear. Okay. So A can be sure, I'll write it, it will be more clear. A can be sure when you can be sure that is only if it is okay. So A can be sure when it sees the collision signal, and when it sees the collision signal, still at that time it is transmitting the packet. So that is the important point here. I'll show you how with the example how, but understand this point. Okay, so A can be sure that this is my collision, that my packet got collision, that there is a collision, that my packet is collided when it sees the collision signal, and and still transmitting the packet. Okay, so it got the collision signal but still it was transmitting the packet. Okay, so at 30 minutes or after 1 hour also, this A was transmitting or putting the packet onto the link, and then it receives the collision signal. Okay, so when that particular thing happens, I will be sure that my or A station is got collided. Okay, so for this particular thing, my transmission time has to be greater than my propagation time here. Okay, so why it should be greater here? So suppose I got the collision after 1 hour, because you are saying here I will get the collision after 1 hour here, because I've sent the packet, because the TP is 1 hour here. So I will get the collision signal back after 1 hour. So now at that time, if I am again transmitting the packet, at that time if I am again transmitting the packet, I got to know that this is my packet that is collided here. So for this particular thing, I should ensure this, that my TT should be greater than TP. Okay, so how much greater, I will show you the worst case and I will tell you the formula there. Okay, so now it means that you have to set the time in such a way that you always that when you receives the collision signal, you should be transmitting the data. Okay, so that is the main point here. You have to set the time in such a way, you have to set the transmission time in such a way that when you get back the collision signal, you should be transmitting the data. Okay, so it means that you will know that this my data has collided. Okay, So now I'll take the worst case here. Now the worst case will be, that I sense at 11 a.m. That this is free. Okay, so I start sending the packet here. Okay, so now when I reach here, at 11, you already know TP air is 1 hour. Okay, so at sorry, not 11, yeah, at 11:59 seconds, or 59 and 59 second, 59 millisecond. Okay, so just take this am. B already has seen that, since this carrier that it is free, and it starts to put the packet onto the link. Okay, so this is the worst case that can happen. Now when this signal got collided, B actually directly will get intimation that my signal is collided, but now see the collision signal which take how much amount of time, the B will see, after how much amount of time B will see the collision. Now this is very important now. Okay, so now at 11, A starts transmitting. Okay, so at 11 59 59 59 11 59 59 seconds, you will see am B starts transmitting. Suppose this is the scenario. Okay, now when be the collision? Okay, so now at exactly at 12 there will be a collision. Absolutely, suppose at 12 there is a collision. Okay, so when it put the packet onto the link, there will be a collision at 12. Suppose it's at 12. Okay, so now when this particular A will get the collision signal back, it will get the collision signal back after 1 hour. Okay, so after 1 hour, this is the worst case. Okay, so suppose if this particular station have transmitted the packet that is on 11 a.m., it will get back the collision signal after 2 hours. Okay, so at 1 a.m., approximately at 1 a.m., it A station will get a collision signal. A will get the collision signal. Okay, so if you're seeing here, A will get the collision signal. This is almost twice the propagation delay here. Okay, so that is why my TT, when I'm transmitting the packet, should be greater than or equal to 2 into TP. Okay, so why it should be greater than or equal to? So by the time I got the collision signal, I still be transmitting the packet, so that I know that this particular collision, this particular collision occurred due to my data packet. Okay, so that is how this particular formula comes here. Okay, so at worst case, I'm talking about at the worst case here. At worst case, I need two TPs, one to reach to B, one TP to reach to B, and one TP back for the collision signal to get to A. Okay, so that is why I need two TP here. Okay, so that is why this transmission delay given as 2 into propagation delay. Okay, so do not need to remember anything. Everything is based on logic. Okay, so if you just if you cram this formula, you will never get to know how this formula get here. Okay, so that is how this formula is designed. Okay, so again, if you want to find out for this transmission delay, how big my packet should be. Okay, so you again have to find that the transmission delay should be greater than 2 into TP. So how much my length of the packet will be, so that while I am transmitting, I should get the collision signal back. Okay, so if you take it, what transmission delay is length over bandwidth. Okay, so it will be 2 into TP. Now length of the packet should be 2 into TP into bandwidth. Okay, now take TP, suppose I take TP towards 1 millisecond and bandwidth is 1 Mbps. Okay, take 1, 2, I don't care. Okay, so now I want to find what should be the minimum amount of data packet. So what is the length of the packet, so that uh, in CSMACD. Okay, so I have to find the length of the packet in CSMACD, because I already know the length of the packet should be greater than equal to 2 into TP into bandwidth. Okay, so I can ask you this question, that what should be the length of the packet in CSMACD. Okay, so TP you already given, so length of the packet should be 2 into TP and 2 into bandwidth. Okay, so it should be 2 uh, okay, so I get the units out. So millisecond can be to 1 into 10 raised to power minus 3. If you remember, bandwidth is 1 into 10 raised to power 6. Okay, so this way cancel it out, it will be 2 raised to power 3. Okay, so it will be bits, in the form of bits. Okay, so it means you require the length of the packet to be 2000 bits. Okay, so if you want to find it in bytes, divide by 8. I think it will be 250 bytes. Okay, so now again, suppose your length of the packet supposed to be 2000 bits. Okay, so but it can also happen that you do not have that much amount of data to transmit, so you only have 1000 bits to transmit. Okay, so it can also happen. So in order for collision detection, you have to add extra 1000 bits. These bits are called your padding bit. Okay, padding bit is just adding extra to ensure that there nothing that I have to adhere to this particular thing. Okay, so this is your this is the concept of transmission delay. Okay, so if you want to find out the efficiency, I'll tell you about it the next one. Okay, efficiency, I think we have covered three techniques. First is TDM, transmission time division multiplexing. Second is polling, TDM with polling, and the third is CSMACD. Okay, so there are many things in this. Don't worry, I'll discuss in the next one. Okay. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. You can move on to the next one.